All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Artistically Married, where art and opportunity collide. We're your hosts, Jake Ackerman.
And Brienne Steinberg. All right, you guys, before we get into our episode this week, we just wanted to remind you guys we have our upcoming 1-year anniversary for Artistically Married. We're so excited. So just remember, if you guys are interested in getting into the draw to win the Kaleidoscope merchandise that we are giving away for our 1-year anniversary, all you have to do is go to Spotify and comment on any of the episodes there. Find your favorite episode, find your favorite guest, and drop us a comment. We're trying to plan our episodes for next year, so we're really interested and we want some feedback from you. We want to hear from you guys, and we can't wait to give away Jake's brand new Kaleidoscope design stuff. You'll win a print, a t-shirt, and a brand new pair of shoes. Yeah, and today we are so blessed to have Erik Dickson on our podcast. He is the proud owner of IndoorShoes. He was the owner of the Warehouse Music Hall in St. Catharines, and also the founder and owner of Cicada Music Festival. So yeah, we are just so grateful for you to be coming on the podcast, and really so grateful for everything that you've done for the Niagara music scene. It's remarkable. Thank you. Yeah, it's such a I mean, you're young. When I was looking at your resume of things that you've done, I was like, this guy's going to be for sure 50 years old. It's such an impressive resume. You're so young.
I feel old.
Yeah? Like you've lived 1,000 lives?
I'm 37. That's like...
You're so young.
But there's not that many things on the... I mean, you can do a lot of this stuff without knowing what you're doing at a pretty young
Oh
age.
my
There's
gosh.
a lot of fumbling and like learn by doing situations involved in this. But
yeah,
I mean, I didn't start doing anything to do with shows until I don't know 22.
really.
And like most people, I feel like a lot of the people that I know in the music industry like started as musicians,
Yeah.
and so they were probably doing it like they were doing that phase in high school, and then they realized they probably weren't the players that you need to be, or the bands didn't work out.
You're
and then
still
they
living
get
at
involved.
home with your parents. You didn't have bills to pay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was in university at Brock, and I was
nice.
going to shows in the city, and I'd moved here from like a small town that had, like a very like DIY, like local whatever scene in the like early 2000s, and went to Brock in part because of the school, and in part because St. Catharines had this reputation for, being a music kind of hub in Ontario.
Are you a musician?
No.
No.
Not
Okay.
even, well, I played music in high school, just like most other people, and then
Amazing.
similar to sports, like you realize at a certain age that you're not going to make it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a
person.
famous musician.
But I played music in high school, went to shows in high school,
Cool.
attended shows in university, but was not involved in anything to do with, concerts or promotions or whatever. It was just like a sort of happenstance that I met people kind of through the university experience that ended up doing it, and then kind of just like got involved in a very like low key way at the end of university, and that very quickly slowly, depending on how you look at it, like just spun off into being involved in putting on shows downtown.
What did you actually take at Brock?
Political science.
Oh,
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, there was a point where I think for me it was like political science was really interesting.
It is really interesting.
I thought about doing, like journalism or something else sort of post-grad
Yeah.
and through the time at Brock, I was like working at the university newspaper, got into like graphic design and marketing, and like did some weird student jobs involved in that stuff. And then like kind of reconnected with someone that I had classes with in the first couple of years who was in the pop culture program, and he was doing shows in like a couple of like very sketchy locations downtown, and he was looking for help with like graphic design for like show posters, and that was like my in,
Right.
with no like real plan. It was just like, oh, you need a poster for this show, I'll do it.
I can do graphic
The
design.
first show I did a poster for was the Sheepdogs at Mansion House, which is funny to think about now, because there was probably 30 people at that show in 2010, and then that was literally the
and
first
we
event.
were one of them.
Yeah, maybe.
We
We were 100% at that show.
There was a couple of
That's
like very,
wild.
very poorly attended Sheepdogs shows at the Mansion House in like the 2010, 2011
Imagine
window.
it now.
And then they
Blew up.
But yeah, so that's how
Jacob
I got.
did sound for the Sheepdogs.
I helped out. I didn't do
Timmons.
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timmins.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So those, like,
Crazy. Okay.
The pathway was not by any means like planned. I mean, that could be true. That could be said for any part of the last, 10 to 15 years. It's all just sort of a domino effect a little bit of just like, well, this opportunity kind of exists. Maybe that, maybe do this thing, see how that goes. Like,
I actually just had this feeling this morning because I feel like you feel like it's linear, right? When you're young and like you have this aspiration, this goal, you're like, I'm gonna be, it's because teachers ask you all the time, or people ask you like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I just had this feeling. It was so weird. I taught a fitness class this morning and I was like, what am I gonna do when I grow up? Like,
yeah,
what is the next thing, right? Like, I've owned a dance studio, we have a house and a family, and in your head you still think like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. What's going to be the next thing? But I think you're right in saying that you kind of just follow the path and that's your purpose for the time. And then there's a new purpose, or a change of purpose.
I mean, I was sort of like the middle of the road, like average student through high school and university, and like, but just never had that. There was never like a break, right? It was like all the way through to like university. And then I'm halfway through that thing and it's like, okay, well,
now what?
What's the plan? And like, there kind of was a semblance of a plan, but not, nothing concrete. And for me, the fork in the road was like, I had an opportunity to go live in New Zealand where my older brother had moved to.
Wow.
In like 2010, 2011. And like an idiot, I chose to stay here. And so most of everything after that is like, was essentially is like the result of that decision, right? It was like, stay here or do that thing that was terrifying to me at the time. But like,
is he still there now?
He's still there now, yeah.
Wow.
So like, it's just like a micro decision that turns into like a macro decision. But
totally.
There wasn't really a plan. There hasn't been one for the most, like there's no like long range. It's just like, what's the next,
go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow.
Few months to
That's
6
great.
months to, like even now in like the world of doing festivals, it's still year to year, right?
Yeah.
Headliner from the festival on the weekend came off stage, and one of the first things he said to me was like, so are you guys going to do this again next year? And my answer was like, I don't know. Maybe, like, hopefully.
Was he trying to get invited back again?
I think he was like, I had a great, like he genuinely was like, we had such a good time at this thing. Like, please tell me you're going to do this again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And,
that's so awesome.
But the answer genuinely is like, we don't know until we make that first real commitment.
Yeah.
Right. Of whether that's book a band or, right, like you don't know until it's actually kind of happening.
Yeah.
Totally.
Very cool.
Did you ever do shows at Red Square?
No, so Red Square was like prior to my time here.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I went to a show there in high school.
Yeah.
Like I had friends in a band that we drove to St. Catharines for them to play like second on a bill with 5 metal bands and play at the Red Square, and we're like in high school, and
that
so
place
I
is amazing.
watched one show in there, and then but there's a few of those sort of like St. Catharines venues that people knew about, talked about, maybe existed during like the kind of Scene Fest era, and then went away. That's kind of the interesting thing about moving here, was that I moved here with the Niagara music scene and partially in mind, and then the story I guess we kind of used to tell was that like shortly after moving here, like this would apply to the people that I got working with after university, but like we all moved here, and then separately, like we didn't know each other.
Okay.
I connected with a lot of people that were like, yeah, I went to Brock because of the music scene in St. Catharines. And then 2006-07 is like when Dine Alone like started in Toronto, and that like whoever, like Joel, and doing a lot of the shows here and running promotions for Scene Fest, like moved to Toronto. And so a lot of that stuff like kind of didn't like completely go away, but there was just a difference, right? It's a big difference between like, it was like we had no idea, like we were too young to know who was sort of like responsible for a lot of that stuff, but there was 100%. Like an element of those bands broke out, moved on, did their own thing, and like, and it was weird. So there were still shows, still tons of stuff going on, but it felt like a little bit like what we were here at least in part, like what we moved here to be a kind of a part of, I guess, in our very
kind
like
of a hiatus,
in our very like 17-year-old 18-year-old minds, like moving here to be part of it, and it was like kind of leaving the city at the same time,
right?
Yeah.
So
you're like those are indoor shoes to fill.
Well, yeah, something like that.
Okay, yeah, so tell us about IndoorShoes and how that got started and how you got involved.
So IndoorShoes initially was my friend Timmer and his friend Shane, who started that basically in like the end of 2010 as like a very do-it-yourself sort of like concert promotions hobby business. Like it was very much not a business. It was just like an idea.
Right.
That I think they just needed to give a name to. Yeah. And like, I don't know where the name really came from.
Okay.
Like, if I remember correctly, the story is that they were just hanging out and like kind of reminiscing about like, you know, elementary school isms, like how you'd have like indoor and outdoor shoes.
Oh, I love that.
So anyway, that's like, I have nothing to do with that name.
Okay.
It just carries.
Yeah.
But it has like, you know, it's funny now because it's memorable, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great name for a promotions company.
They started that, and like the idea was to help their friends in bands like put out music or, you know, get
book
their names
gigs.
out and book them gigs.
Yeah.
And they kind of initiated that with like what became like an annual like compilation release. At the time it was on a CD, and it was like they would print, you know, a couple hundred of these CDs that were a bunch of bands that were from the area and friends, and then they would just like do a show, and they did a show, and it was like a Boxing Day thing.
Oh yeah, totally.
And anyway, so you know,
was it in Niagara Falls? Was it at Jack's? No,
it was at the Mansion House.
Oh, at Mansion House.
Like everything was in St. Catharines.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months after that I kind of reconnected with Timmer, who I'd had classes with in like first and second year of university.
Right.
And it was like more or less me saying like, do you need help with anything? Like, I'll just come hang out at the door. And, you know, it was like super, super not a job. It was just I'll come hang out at some shows. And as time went on, it was mostly like kind of a long unintentional sort of process of like legitimizing it into an actual business.
Right.
But even then it never really became an actual business. It was just take it a little bit more seriously because there was an opportunity to work with like build up and work with bigger artists over time.
Right. Yeah. You build a reputation and then you can like get, you know, you have a bigger pull, right?
And have like rooms to do those shows in. Like
right.
if the operation of the events was more professional, then like you could do more of them and maybe go to a place down the road that was a little bit bigger and like they would let you do a show. Like a lot of it was kind of resembled how it felt in like the high school days where you would like, when I was a teenager, like the guy in town that did shows was like asking permission to like use a space like a Legion or a Knights of Columbus or
right.
It was like, can we please do a show and we promise we won't break anything, and then like someone would break something and you'd have to move on to the next like community center that was available to do a show.
Where did you grow up?
Tillsonburg.
Oh my God, that's where I got my dog.
So everyone knows something.
Yeah, Tillsonburg. I had to drive there to go get my dog. They breed like poolies there. Yeah, that's small
news to me.
Town.
I gotta drive there in a couple days.
Come on,
so
pick up a poolie.
Well,
they're like the only place in Ontario that has them.
I don't know that about Tillsonburg.
Yeah,
so.
it's like those dreadlock dogs, you know, has like the dreadlock hair. Anyways,
it
doesn't matter. Yeah, that is a very
sounds
small
like a dog
town.
they'd breed in Welland.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Dundas.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, sorry. I was like, where is he living that he's having at the Knights of Columbus?
Well, let's just say like Tillsonburg was like, there was no
small
venue,
town,
right? Like,
right.
And we were all in high school, so you weren't even like to do a show at a bar was like off limits. Like you were not doing it at a bar.
Right.
And that was the other kind of weird ism about IndoorShoes at the beginning. It was like focused on like all ages, like a lot of high school bands that couldn't play shows because the normal operations were clubs and bars that weren't necessarily open to having, like, they're driven by the obvious, which is like sell drinks. And if you were bringing in an underage band and their underage friends to watch them, like there was no revenue to make.
Right.
So there was like kind of a long, like there was a process of trying to navigate like a bar that would like let you do a show that was like early enough in the night that it didn't take away from their normal bar business. And like, anyway, all of that 3 or 4 year process of doing that kind of stuff like led to opening a venue that could just be like, why are we listening to other people? Like, let's have our own place, and it can be all ages, and it can also be a bar, and it can have, like, we can do the best of both worlds.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, you know, it's not just that part wasn't IndoorShoes was almost like pre me being involved.
Just
had
having it at different places.
Yeah, it was like at best, a concert promotions business that operated out of a variety of places, whether it was the Mansion House, the Merchant Ale House, L3, Detour.
Those are all the best bars.
If they're they're still around. But we were just looking for space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the better the reputation kind of got, the more opportunities we got to work with bigger artists, which meant having to do a better job.
Yeah, right? Better quality, better sound, better lights, better tech.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do in like a bar that's not built for concerts.
Right. So, yeah, it's like a restaurant that they just have like a little corner,
Yeah, the Mansion House is like, we'll clear out some tables so you do a show in this little room.
Yeah, it's so tiny.
And it's not, and a lot of crazy things happen in that room. That like, it's great. It's fun to talk about. Like, it's fun to think about some of those shows that happen in like a room not built for shows at all. Or
is
not
it
built
still
for
happening? We never leave the house anymore.
I mean, the Mansion House is still there.
Okay.
They definitely do like some live music, but it's kind of like, again, that like what it was before, which is like they'd have I think they might do bands on like a Friday night.
Okay.
Right. But it's more or less bar band sort of oriented.
And maybe it's like a regular or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so this brought you to, which we were talking about a little bit before the show, but brought you to the warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take us through that process. Like, I get it what you're saying, and I think I understand because, you want to call the shots, right? You're like, why are we trying constantly to like beg people to let us go there? Like, they don't see the vision, right? So it does like get to a point where you're just like, we need our own space and we can do this, but that's a huge undertaking with like a monthly rent cost and an overhead and all the things. Like, that's ballsy.
Well, I think like the internal like negotiation was like, are we already generating enough revenue to do this? We're just not the ones like reaping the benefit.
Totally. Yeah, because you're paying out how much per month to run these events.
We might not have been paying rent to do a show at the Mansion House, but we weren't getting the bar sales. So when the place was busy with people that were having drinks or food or whatever, like
you brought there,
we weren't the ones benefiting from it. So it was kind of like I don't know. There was a crazy like sort of analysis of like, could we do this without? I mean, we were out of doing shows at the Mansion House before this happened anyway. Like, we were already into doing shows at Detour, which was already like kind of a defunct like club that had a name, and then we were like convinced the owner to change the name to something else, and that was like almost like a halfway point to having our own place. Like, it wasn't our place, but we like got to rename it. This guy
we can call the shots.
The guy cared very, very little about the place. Like, it was sort of like he just had it and it was there, and it was like, well, if you want to put people in it, like, I'd be happy to let you do that.
Yeah.
But it also gave us a little bit more freedom to like do what we wanted in terms of shows. Like, we weren't as restricted on like styles of music and whatever.
Yeah.
But by like, that was like, 2013, 14. And it was pretty obvious that we were at least doing enough content to like, if we were the ones paying the rent there, we would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, it was, we were responsible for all the ticket sales, all the bar sales, and we could tell what those numbers were looking like anyway.
Yeah.
So it was more so that as those couple of years were training wheels, but also like by the end of those couple of years in that space, it was not good. Like, the relationship with the owner was not good, and it was very like, the space was really neglected. So we were constantly fighting the battle of like, the speaker is broken, but there's no impetus for him to repair it. So we were like replacing it, supplementing all this stuff.
Right.
And so
we felt like that, even just renting places like commercially. We're just like, why are we paying this when we are buying and changing it? We're doing all the construction. Like, we should be owning this building.
Yeah. Like, we were cleaning, we were doing most of the upkeep, but I think that was just like, again, it was great. It was great sort of training in a way, but
it probably gave you the confidence to know you're like, okay, we can do this.
More or less. I think it was just a roll of the dice. Like, I kind of look at that window of time in my memory as like a kind of a 50-50 shot. It was like either stop doing shows because it was getting really difficult, or go further in and like open a venue that could have as many of the things that you would hope to have if you were in a concert venue as possible. So there was a nice like opportunity to be that only spot in the city for a while, and like you said, call the shots and like do whatever music you wanted to, and like figure out what that groove was.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. Like, how do you? I mean, this is a global question, but you could answer it specifically maybe to that time. Is like, how do you pick bands? How do you like decide what styles in? How do you decide what like people are into?
Well, you kind of do and you don't. I mean, you're like always a student of like what's going on and trying to pay attention. But I mean, at the small venue level, you know, we're not like representing the largest sort of audiences of music. Like, we're not booking the biggest bands in the world.
Well, you wouldn't fit them, right? Like, you want to pick an audience that's going to be the size of your venue.
Yeah, I think you're as much looking at like what's already, you know, what's already working in other cities, and what are people kind of like looking for. I mean, at that level, and it's kind of always been like this, but at the level of like small venue, small city, you're as much a mirror of like what people are already listening to and paying attention to, as you are like, here's something interesting we think is cool. Like, what can we get people to come and see it?
Yeah.
So the balancing act of operating the business that is shows is like giving people what they want that they already know about, and then also like introducing them to things, you know, and that could be as simple as you could describe that in the context of like, I booked this headliner that people do know and they're coming to see, but I put this like other band on that show that they don't know, and hopefully they see them and go, this band is really cool, I didn't know about. Like, it's definitely more kind of a reflection of what people are already looking for, as it is like trying to curate like try to be like some sort of taste maker where you're like, this is a cool band and you should come see them.
Yeah.
Do bands and promoters normally come to you, or are you reaching out to bands and promoters, or is it like kind of a bit of both?
I think at that, you know, at the venue level, it's like, it's definitely both, and it's a lot of like, you're just dealing with like an intense amount of volume of people reaching out to you. Like, we'd love to play a show, or we'd love to be on this bill that you already have. Like, there's so much of that, and you can only fit so much on, and you can only have so many shows, and you can only expect so many people. So, you know, the tough part is that there's 1,000 bands for every, you know, 1,000 audience members, and like, that doesn't work economically. So, you know, you're always turning people down and turning stuff down, but you're hoping to try to give opportunities where you can. When you run the venue, you're dealing with as many like inquiries about rentals and bands wanting to book dates and stuff like that as you are reaching out to like bands you want to try to work with.
Right.
But generally, like, the process for most stuff is local artists performing like on bills that you're putting together, and artist reps like agents like reaching out to you as a venue and saying like, we have this band going on tour in 6 months, like, do you want to do a date with that band? So that's like a lot of it. Like, that's the majority of what we would sort of do at the venue level, is like,
oh, so much pressure.
This band is going on tour, and you have to make a decision of like, how much is that show worth? Like, how many people are going to go to that show at what ticket price? And
do they usually give you a price? Or like, we want this booked band and this is how much it's going to cost?
They give you, it's like, sort of, it's like a Facebook Marketplace scenario. It's like, we think this is worth this, and you're like, I think it's worth that.
How about
and then
this?
Kind of back and forth.
Okay.
But in like a weird,
bidding?
in a weird way, because you're talking ultimately about like people, and you're talking about art, and neither are hard to, if not impossible, to sort of put like a practical value on.
Exactly.
That is a very frequent theme in this podcast, because our mission is kind of to bring those two together, right, and try to understand that like art is, you know, has a specific value, and to make it as much as it can be. But obviously, there's a million pieces. Like, I try to say this to artists all the time, because they tend to have this like chip on their shoulder about the people who are making money off them, but I'm like, you're getting on stage, you're doing this beautiful thing, and like you said, it's people and it's art. But you know, if you just put them on a stage and, you know, hope and wish that people are going to come, like, it's people like you that are bringing those people there to see them and putting their art into practice.
I think I look at it more like facilitating, and and sometimes you have to be the bearer of bad news. In my job, like, you have to be the person that's like, no one's coming to this, so it's a bad idea. We're not going to do this combination of bands or this artist because it's not going to work.
Right.
Like, you have to be the sort of judge of like something being viable. And like, at the end of the day, like, I've gone into a coffee shop and been like, I'm here for a coffee and a donut, and there's somebody on stage performing for no one. Right. Like, that decision to go up and do that, not the performance, but the execution of like, we'll just have someone play today in front of no one, is like, to me, that benefits, there's no winner. So there's as many shows.
I don't think that happens on purpose.
No, of course not. But the point is that like, there's
like, it's accidental.
I think like saying no to as many shows as you say no to way more events than you say yes to.
100%.
Right. It's like, sometimes you're the bad guy who goes like, this isn't going to work, but I promise you, like, I'm not looking, this isn't for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I'm doing you a favor. Yeah.
And I mean, like, promoter is a sucky word. Like, people don't, like, it's got a bad connotation, I think, in the industry a little bit.
Right.
Because there is that like historical, or at least like there are historical like examples of that being like a scammy, like someone that takes advantage of artists or attendees or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, at its best, like, the promoter role is like, your band is playing a show and I'm going to get people to that show. That's like, it's really not the reality of how it works. Like, your band is playing a show and it's your responsibility to get people there as much, if not more, than it is mine. And my job is to like help you put that show on. Right. Like, so I actually think like, it doesn't really matter so much now, but I think the title is a little like outdated, because conceptually it's like, the promoter is saying like, it's like a boxing promoter, right? Like a boxing promoter, the same definition. It's like, I'm putting on a fight and it's my job to get people to come see this fight.
Right.
This is going to be the best fight you've ever seen. This guy's from this neck of the woods and he's this crazy and this person's from over here. That's like the promoter job. And it's like, a promoter in the music context is like, I'm going to hype up the community to come see this show. And like, the truth now, and more in the last couple decades, is like, the reason anyone's coming to a show is because they already know they want to see this band, whether that's because it's their brother's best friend from work, or because it's their, like, they've actually been listening to this band forever and ever, and they want to see them. Yeah. Right. To me, the job of organizing is like far more, it's like more about facilitating.
Yeah, I like that word, facilitating, because you're right. You're like organizing for like the sound to work and the stage to be clean and the, like you're actually facilitating the show to happen and it to be an enjoyable experience.
Most of the time, bands, I think people in bands, musicians would say like they're not good organizers.
Or like marketers or promoters, right?
Like, that's a tough one. That's a tough piece too, because like, there are some incredible, I've encountered and worked with incredible musicians who are terrible at promoting themselves. Yeah. That's just, it's hard to be both things.
They got the tism.
Yeah. Or like, they're extremely talented, but they're not, like, that's just not how they're wired, right? They're not wired for self-promotion. Some of the best artists like that I've ever known are like terrible at promoting themselves.
Yeah, they're good at self-deprecation.
Yeah. Like, don't come to this show. It's going to be terrible.
I'm the worst. Right? I'm the worst. Yeah. They just beat themselves up.
Yeah. They're like, so there's a part of it that's like, let's help. That's kind of how this whole thing got started. And before I was involved, it was like, how do we help these musicians get in front of people?
Because as their friends, you appreciate them so much and you want them to succeed, and they belong in front of huge audiences because they're so talented.
Like, I know a person who's like a soccer coach, and he's like very good at soccer, but he wasn't good enough to to continue into a professional career.
Right.
And that is a one-to-one comparison as like a soccer player that becomes a soccer coach. But like, I didn't have to be a okay guitarist to know that I wasn't going to be in a band. But the interest in the space was the same. Like, I was super interested. I just knew I wasn't going to be the musician on stage. It's not my personality. It wasn't my talent set. But like, so I think there's, value in having, there's like those roles that you don't see, right? Like, the joke I made when I got here, but like there's no pictures of me on the internet.
Yeah.
Because like no one takes pictures of the guy at the back of the room with his arms crossed at a show.
Right.
But that person isn't, and I'm not saying as important as like who is on stage, but like what's true about the industry is like there are so many, you know, like links in the chain that
so many
exist
people
between
involved.
like you listen to Spotify and go, I need to see this band.
Yeah.
And then you go to the show and then see that band, and the like amount of things that happened in between for you to get there and for that band to end up on stage. And I'm not like, to be honest, like I'm like the least in favor of sort of like glorifying like the background people of music industry. Like everyone has a job.
Everyone has a job. I was just gonna say
right?
that. Yeah, everyone has an obligation to the scenario. Yeah.
There's just different roles. So, anyway, yeah, like I knew I was going to be a background person, and it's totally fine with me to do that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
it's nice to kind of be that person, the cheerleader in the background. It's a lot
like,
less pressure.
Yeah. It's different pressure.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're actually on the hook, and like, that's the thing, like where the job is tough, or where the job is its hardest is where it's like you're the one taking the risk. Like you're the one gambling the money.
Yeah. You're
it's
the one hoping for ROI.
ROI.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this band is you're gonna put on a show, and this band is $10,000, and you are the one signing that contract, and like now you have to sell X amount of tickets at X amount of dollars to get there. Like you're doing that on a that's a daily, like essentially a daily basis. Like
so scary. Yeah,
but the hope is that you're making good enough judgments on what's the value of bands and shows and whatever. It's
you touched on this, but I'm curious because I mean, to see your career go from like 2010 to now, how do you use, or like, do you think it's a much easier scenario to make kind of those decisions now that there is social media?
I mean, there's tons of like,
or accessibility, let's say. There's
tons of metrics, I guess, that you can try to use. A lot of it's just history, right? A lot of it's like, have you worked with this artist before on previous shows, and how did those shows do? And then you're just sort of following all these other elements. Like now you can like follow the analytics around like someone's Spotify monthly listeners, or how many plays are they getting on certain songs, or how are they.
That's what I mean. Like that part of the industry, like the metrics are there. They're everywhere. And
it works in some places, and in other places it doesn't, right? Like how many TikTok followers an artist has doesn't necessarily mean anything in the context of like doing a show in person and people having to buy tickets.
Totally. And it's like, it's a lot about location, right? Like where, they might be famous in another country, but you try to put it on here and it doesn't work.
There's like tools that you can access if you pay for them. Some you don't have to, that are like, where are this artist's audiences? Like where are their biggest followers?
Really?
Even Spotify at like the public facing level, you can see when you look at how many followers or how many monthly listeners an artist has, you can see like the top 5 cities, right? So it could be like an artist that has 10 million monthly listeners, but like 3 out of the top 5 cities are in Australia. Like you can look at stuff like that.
Cool.
To be honest, mostly it's like it's a combination of everything.
Right, for sure.
It's all that new
I just feel like those
information.
tools must make it like easier now than before. You'd hear a name, be like, oh, okay. Try to figure out where this band sits, and you're booking them. I like their name.
A lot of it was just, when you're dealing with newer up and coming artists, then you're trying to like sort of, you're just really following their trajectory as you work with them multiple times. Yeah. Others, it's like artists that have been playing the city or the area like long enough that you just go, what were the last 3 shows like? And that could be 6 years of history. Yeah. And like things can change in that time, but you can go, well, this last time was a year and a half ago, and this is how many people came to that show. And then the time before that was this thing, and that's how many people came to that show. Like, okay. So it's just a lot of, and then there's like, I don't know, there's some amount of like just intuition, I suppose. Yeah. Which is like, I think this will do well.
Yeah, and I think it's fun when like we've had experiences like that where we've hired artists for events and stuff, and we're just like, I believe in you. There is that feeling, right?
Well, there's
like,
also
you're so good, I love you.
I've done an unspeakable amount of events with artists that I knew weren't going to do as well as they needed to, but I just wanted to do it. I just wanted to be the person that did it, or I wanted to like see them myself.
Yeah.
Like I would just love to be the person that did that show. I booked a band from Iceland like 10 or 11 years ago that like I just really liked, and they announced a tour that like had a gap in between, you know, whatever it was. It was like a date in the middle between like a New York and Montreal or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, get on
You're
my
like, the
computer,
end
and I'm
area.
like, gonna get on my computer and go like, you're driving right through the city, I promise. Like, do you want to stop on your day off and play a show? And like financially, terrible idea, like, but memorable, like to do that thing and pull it off.
I always wondered this. Do you like pay for their accommodations? No, you just pay them to play.
It depends.
Okay.
It totally depends on.
Yeah, I
like,
always wondered that if like I got a band in here, if I'd have to like put them up.
it would. It's not necessarily it's not a requirement necessarily.
No.
It depends on who.
Might just
and
sweeten the deal.
like also like you'll sometimes find out that they don't need them because they're
Right.
gonna, if it's on a tour, they might just drive from the city they're playing tonight to the next city, like overnight, or like leave right now,
That
leave
is
as soon as the show is over,
Bonkers
and
to me.
get to the hotel or get to the next city. There's like, it's almost hard to say for sure.
So crazy. Cool. So yeah, what was the actual year that you started the warehouse? I'm trying to put the timeline together.
Yeah, 2017. So
Okay.
basically
Holy.
did shows in kind of a few different places from 2011 until about then, and then yeah, like I mean, even after warehouse opened, like there were shows and events in other places. Like we did some shows at the Performing Arts Center, still did some shows in other venues. Like we used like the campus bar at Brock.
Oh my
Isaac's for
gosh.
some bigger stuff.
Yeah, I was there all the time. Back in the
Because
day.
ultimately it was just like, you know, how big is the band? Like, are you going to do a show that holds 700 people or 200 people? Or
Yeah.
so in some ways, like the venue,
Dictated that.
or the band,
or the
dictates the venue.
The venue, yeah.
And we've just not had there's never been like an abundance of like dedicated spaces for shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How did you end up finding that place? I was trying to remember when we were there last time what it was. Before that.
literally just like commercial rent listings on the internet. Was
Come
available.
on.
Yeah. I mean, it was a carpet store for 40 plus years before.
That's what it was. I
And
was
the
trying to remember we were
Krugels,
there.
right? Or
Wally
something.
Wemnitz.
Wally Web.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I knew it had a
gosh,
funny name.
right. Yeah.
So it was like a 16,000 square foot building that was available entirely, and like the owner at the time
That's
was
all it is 16,000 square feet?
the whole building is.
Oh, 16,000. I was thinking of 1,600 because when
No.
we were
Yeah.
there, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
blacked out. Yeah, I thought you were saying 1,600 because when we were there, you were like, I think it's the same size as the studio. I'm like, there's no way.
How
But if
big's
it
your
was
studio?
1,600, yeah, it's almost that 1,600. Yeah.
I mean, that space is 25, 26 or
Okay.
something, like overall.
Yeah.
The building was, the owner at the time was interested in sort of subbing, like dividing the space
Right.
into units. Like
Right.
obviously it had been one large space for before, and but like realistically, like the amount of possible tenants that would use that much space for one single operation was,
Yeah.
you know, the higher likelihood in downtown, especially that there'd be you'd be successful renting it in smaller pieces.
Yep.
So they'd already started severing off parts of the building for units at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was sort of an opportunity to sort of pick how much of the leftover space to take and build as a starting point. So
Yeah.
it was kind of the perfect combination of like downtown, but like still on the outside edge of downtown. So the rent wasn't like as high as it, you know, could have been.
Yeah.
Being like, and also like no neighbors, like no second floor, like a parking lot, like a lot of the assets that like, just to be honest, even in the time since then, I've yet to kind of come across in like a singular location where it's like, it would be great to have, you know, only share one wall with another unit, have no one living above you or below you, have some parking space, and have really quick access to the highway, which is very close to the, you know, 406. So like,
Has
this is
all the
weird
things,
assets you're sort of looking for, and
yeah.
like the proximity to downtown, where I can say like, after the show, you can walk 5 minutes to get a drink at this other place, or before the show you can have dinner and walk down to the show after that. Like,
Yeah,
those were all
such a good
little
location.
sushi place.
And
Oh
then
yeah, we went to the sushi place across the
Yeah.
street one time before a show.
Amakara,
Yeah.
best in town.
Oh, so good. What's the capacity in there?
Just under 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking. I mean, this is one of my questions. Is like, what was your most memorable show there? But if you're reluctant, I can tell you my favorite show there.
I think probably there might be there's a few, but that's, and again, it comes back to like just who, like bands you booked or like had the opportunity to book that were special to you, right? Like,
right.
Personally, like Winter Sleep in there.
Cool.
I love Winter Sleep so much. They're so good.
Tim Baker in there a couple years ago. Said the Whale a bunch of years before, like a few years before that. Like, just like personal favorites, bands that I've like had the opportunity to like, either I was just like a huge fan and listened to, or bands that I got to know via, like, that I was also a fan of, but then got to know them by working with them. Like,
right.
I probably listened to Said the Whale early in high school, and then like have done like 5 or 6 shows with them. Yeah. And could text someone from that band now, which seems even now is like kind of a funny thing to be able to do. Yeah. But you know, those like big sort of like big band, smaller room type shows at like a venue like that are special. Yeah. Like Winter Sleep was the next level one probably for me, just because it was like I've listened to that band forever and ever, and then
they're
like,
huge. We saw them at Osheaga. Like it was packed.
And getting to do
they're
it,
so good.
You know, like getting to do a band like that in a space you know, like and it took a long time to get to that point where they were like, you know, those are the calls I remember getting, where I get a call and it's like, hey, so Winter Sleep's going to be doing, and I forget exactly what it was. They had some reason to be in like the GTA for something related, like something industry related, right? It was like, an awards event or a whatever. And it was like, they're going to be in town, but it's just for this thing. So we're trying to make the flights worth it for everyone to get to Ontario. So we're trying to put together like 2 or 3 other shows within like a few hours of Toronto for the band to play. So it's like January on like a Tuesday. Like, it's not a good time of year to do
not
the
a
show.
good show day.
And I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah,
like,
I don't care. If it's just me, it's fine.
I'll sell this show, right? Yeah. So, because that's one of those things where it's like, this isn't a normal circumstance, but like, so it's not like you wouldn't get this on a normal tour. They wouldn't play a venue that size, right? So, having it kind of come up under unique circumstances, but you're like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. This is going to be like a, you know, it's going to be an important, memorable one for me personally. So yeah, that's amazing. But some of those things come together, or things like that can come together super randomly and like unexpectedly. We did Death from Above in there.
Oh, nice.
Come on.
Like 2 years ago.
What?
And it was a situation like totally out of the blue, where they had a tour and they were in a bus and they were supposed to play Waterloo, and then the next night was in like Michigan. And the venue in Michigan was like being built, was like a new build. And like a week and a half before the show, the venue people in Michigan were like, we're not going to be ready in time. Oh. And so, you know, they cancel the show, but in the like, it's like within a 12 or 24 hour period, they're like, we need to find another date for this band, because like a bus rental is X amount a day. And if they don't have this one show, it tanks the whole like economics of the tour. So like, I get a phone call at like 6 o'clock on a Thursday, and it's like, what do you have? Do you have anything on your calendar next Friday? And at the time it was like, let me check. No.
Yeah, I'll kick them out.
They're like, do you want to do Death from Above? And I was like,
oh my God, fate. You know, right away,
why
fate.
Of course, my first question is
how
like,
much?
My first question actually was like, why?
Yeah, why?
Why are you asking me
why
this?
Do you want?
So once I got the circumstances, it's like, okay, so like, figure it out, and like by 10 a.m. the next day we were on sale.
Wow.
Right, like you can, and so it ended up being 2 shows one night. Like, just, you know, they have to like max it out. Right. And the best way to max it out was to play a 6 o'clock show and a 9 o'clock show. Like, and the 2 shows like sold out in a day. Like it's one of those things that like, you go on, I'm on Instagram and it's like, big show announcement at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Like, and people are texting me and like, what is it?
Yeah.
But anyway, so like no warning,
Okay.
just like a go on sale at
Those
10
are
a.m.
too
and I
good.
said,
I can't believe we missed it. Well, I guess
Yeah.
that's why, because it sold out in a day.
yeah, and it was just one of those things, like those fluky things that you just like the opportunity
Presents
could
itself.
come if you
yeah.
are, you know,
Yeah.
hilariously not booked on a Friday in September, which
Yeah.
is at the time was like, how do we not have something on this day?
Yeah. How did
But I'm
this
really
work
grateful
out?
that we don't.
The stars aligned.
Yeah. So there's a few of those.
My favorite was we saw Road Waves there one time, and I think it was just because it was a local show and like it was so much fun. We were just like everyone was dancing together. It was great. But my favorite was Mouse on the Keys.
No, that's a crazy one.
Yeah.
We were like we've been obsessed with them forever, but I was like, how are they here? Like, how did they come across here? Like,
That's what I said.
yeah,
Almost, actually.
yeah, they're amazing, like
Like a
unbelievable.
Japanese like jazz keyboard and drums like trio that
Yeah,
is all instrumental.
dueling
Yeah.
piano and then a drum. Yeah, drums.
That band was sort of pitched to us before that in like early 2017, I think. And I remember getting the, you know, like you deal with a lot of different sort of agency reps, like, and some have like, some are like the more like big rosters that all the bands you know, and then some you don't, but then there's other ones that work in really like niche categories. And periodically you'll get one that you're like, I don't know what I would do with this. Like, thank you for offering it to us, but like, I have no idea who would go to this show. So
Right.
it's like I said earlier, like everything's a gamble. And sometimes you just have to like know when to say like, this would never work here.
Yeah.
And that Mouse on the Keys band, I remember listening to and thinking like, this is the coolest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do this at Warehouse. So I like passed it to Sarah Palmieri, who was the like the director of programming
At the PAC.
at the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
I said, listen, like, I don't know if there's anything here, but like, listen to this. And obviously they work on like completely different timelines. Like they announce a whole season and
Yeah.
it's different. But I'm like, I don't know if like there's anything here, but it would be really cool to see this kind of thing happen. And I know we can't do it. And she ended up like doing that show. the
Yeah, we
first
saw
one.
them there.
Yeah.
We saw them at the PAC before.
And so,
And then they were at Warehouse like a year later, I
yeah,
think.
when they came back around, which is crazy to think about, like from Tokyo,
Yeah.
it was like, we'll come back. We'd
Like,
love
I
to
want to
come
go
back
back to
St.
Niagara.
Catharines. And at that time I was like, you know what? Like they had done this Performing Arts Center show. I knew a ton of people that had gone and were like, this is the coolest
Mind-blowing.
show.
Yeah.
So I did the next one. I said, we'll just do it at the venue. And I remember it being like an insane proposition to put like that band on that stage,
Yeah.
just because of the, it's like 2 pianos.
Yeah.
Like they had an opening band on the tour. Like it just like was such a
Oh, that was their
logistical
opening
disaster.
band that came with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
I wasn't going to yell at you for that, but
Um,
the opening band was...
I don't know how they got lumped in with that. There was like this
hot
weird
mess.
genre of kind
It
of...
was
it
experimental,
was like
I get it.
math rock or now I'm spacing on what they were called.
Yeah.
Terramellos.
Yes,
Terramellos,
Terramellos.
And they're a well-known band.
Yeah.
From the States that
Okay.
I actually saw probably on like a Warped Tour date like a million years ago.
Amazing.
How those two got paired together, I still don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I still don't.
If I knew at the time, I still don't remember.
They were
but
always like on kind of like obscure record labels.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that they just got lumped in with another.
They're like, oh, this
record
is
label
experimental. I'm like, but...
I think in some of the places they played, it would have been flipped the other way around, where like they were the headliner and
Oh.
Mouse on the Keys was like
band.
in support. But
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great example of one of those like circumstances are super weird, not the traditional thing that we would do, right?
Yeah.
Like the average person, I'd ask like, what was your favorite show at Warehouse? They'd probably say one of like, Danko Jones or Lois the Low or,
Yeah.
like a sort of, not that there's anything wrong with those bands, but like
No.
something more like well known that they
Practical.
happen to see. And there's a lot of like, it's funny. I forget more of the shows until someone reminds me about
Yeah, I
them
can't believe
having
you
happened.
remembered who that's an unbelievable memory.
Memory for
That
that
specific thing.
specific. Well, some things stick out.
Yeah.
right? I definitely like someone will have to. I need like the recall of like someone saying I went to this show, and I'll go, oh yeah, I remember that show. But if you ask me to list the shows that have happened, it wouldn't
Yeah.
go well.
Yeah. Well, it was incredible. I mean, it still is. It's such a great venue. And like you said, it has so many different access points that like no other venue in St. Catharines has. I think it's incredible what you're doing there.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, I do want to switch gears and talk a little bit about Cicada. So for our listeners who don't know, Cicada Music Festival happens on Henley Island. It's in its 5th year.
This was our 6th year.
6th year. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's in its 6th year. Yeah. We just attended it. It was this past weekend and unbelievable. I mean, we ended up away last year, so we couldn't go last year, but this would have been like our 4th year going. And yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like, I mean, it was incredible when we went the last 4 years and then the 3rd year, but we missed last year, and this year was just like that much bigger, that much more energy, that much more like on the stage. It was just unbelievable. I'm just so proud. I go around bragging that like we have this music festival in Niagara. It's like not a small thing. It's huge.
Yeah, it's gotten bigger every time a little bit.
Yeah.
This definitely felt like the biggest scope in a bunch of ways. Like, and even after that, I know there's still more we could do in terms of like the site and like giving people stuff to like engage with while they're there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like it was that I really noticed that difference. I mean, the stage already was amazing. You've been doing this for a long time, but I really noticed the difference of like the amount of vendors and the size of the vendors and the different, like they were, they're bigger and more lit up.
There was more lights. It felt like there was an intention to like continue this theme of like there's a reason to come for the whole day. Yeah. Because there's enough to do and see, and like I heard it almost like kind of immediately from people that they felt like they just come, even if they're not necessarily zeroed in on a band or on a stage, like they're coming a little bit earlier to just hang. Yeah. Which is great. Yeah. But it felt like the most sort of ambitious to us internally as a group, like just in terms of like, okay, we're going to have like more stuff, which is just like more things to manage, like right. If you keep it really simple and it's a bar and a couple stages and food, it's like really easy to kind of maintain. But
there's like games and activities and photo opportunities and the vendors and the food and everything was amazing.
Things getting unplugged and people running out of water, people running out of ice. Like it's just,
oh god,
those are fine. Yeah, those are easy problems to solve, but you're like never not solving one of several problems, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
That's like the experience of the team is like what like fires are you putting out at any moment?
Yeah.
In hopes that like the person that comes sees none of them.
Yeah.
Like that's. Yep. That's the whole, and that's
it needs
true.
To be seamless, right?
It's really small venue level or small event level. That's how it is too. But in the festival site, you're running across like a 10-acre field.
Yeah.
Across like to deal with something that could be going sideways for a moment. But yeah, no, we've been we're 3 days out after this year's festival, and I was there again today. Just like the last few things to wrap up on site before we're kind of officially like not there for a little while.
Right.
So it's very fresh, but overwhelmingly like super positive. Like
so amazing.
It's like almost overwhelming how much like positivity. I'm not used to it.
You're like, stop texting me how amazing I am.
Well, it's a group. There's a whole group. The whole group of people, and they're all getting texts, but we share like these things with each other. Like, hey, this person texted me and said this, and this is really nice. And this band, sent this email, and it's really nice. Like, there's just so much. It's all very nice.
Yeah.
And the words of the weekend were like wholesome and cute and friendly. It's like, yeah, okay, it is. It's not a bad thing.
I think like the feedback like that, that's why we do what we do. Otherwise, like it's so much work.
Yeah.
And so much stress, right? Like your nervous system is just operating for months before of like trying to put out fires, right? It's like, when all these things are happening at these events, I put on recitals and it's the same thing. In your mind, you're like, I accounted for this. I made sure we did extra bags of ice. How are we still out of ice?
There were literally things that we were like, we definitely planned this, and then
we knew this was gonna happen,
and we didn't do it, or we forgot to do it.
Oh yeah.
at the 11th hour, like, and then you're doing it halfway through.
Yeah. We're like, we said we were going to do this, and then we forgot.
It's like, I actually feel like I said a couple times over the last weekend, this week, that like, if we were doing this thing every 4 months, it would be perfect, faster. Like we would be getting better faster.
Yeah.
Because the year in between is actually like too long for some elements. Like it's not too far apart to do the event. But it's sometimes like you're like, we did this festival here in the falls a month ago, and
we were talking about that on the phone. Sorry, what was it again?
Misty City.
Oh yeah. Okay, we're in the sweet sweater.
We're in the sweater. So like the whole group involved with Cicada was like, got involved in that at closer to the end when it was happening.
Okay.
And so like, and everyone, I kind of had to just sort of tell everyone like, listen, I need your help with like this thing, go do that. Like all the things you would do at Cicada, just do them here.
Practice run.
Right. And doing that a month out meant everyone was really like, all those things were really fresh. It was like, okay, we dealt with this at Misty City, and like, it was like on their minds that like, okay, before that happens at Cicada, let's plan to deal with it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that, like practice run in a way, was really good for everybody involved. But anyway, so you aren't really working for the whole year. Like even going in like a few weeks ago, it felt like very chill, almost like we're like, should we be more freaked out about this thing being a few weeks away? Like it felt like that all summer. But
there is really, I mean, I say that to my team too. Like there is stuff that's always in the last minute. Like at the end of the day, it's a weekend. The people aren't coming until that weekend.
I imagine too. Like I know it was the same with us when we started putting on dance recitals. The first ones we were just tearing our hair out, and then after we've done 10 or 15 of them now, there's not a lot of stress going into it. You know, there's stuff that's going to happen. You deal with it when it comes up, but.
And you hope that you're going to have like systems and project management going on.
It's just all repetition. It's like, it's repetition, but it's hard to get better with that repetition when it's that far apart.
It's annually. Totally.
But everyone, we kind of like have gotten into a groove of like, everyone's got their kind of department, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you handle this section of things and I'll handle this. And like we were sitting at a table, like a few of us, like on Saturday afternoon, going like, it feels weird that it's going this smoothly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like we're like sitting with our radios and like waiting for something to happen, or you're looking at your phone, like waiting for someone to call. And like, sure, those things did happen, but there were moments where you're like, it's going really smoothly. It's like funny to just sort of doubt why.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was our 6th year. Obviously we're still kind of like figuring out where we landed on the whole thing, like when it comes to like our like the charitable goals of the festival, which is to like raise money for Pathstone mental health. So we'll see where we ended up on that. But the overall like kind of response to the festival has gotten better kind of year over year, and like I think there's a little bit more buy-in, and it's like a bit more of a community event that everyone kind of looks forward to at that point in the year.
I got like 8 texts, like Cicada ? You know, like everyone's just like texting each other, like, are you going? You know, like you're looking forward to seeing all your friends that like, for a lot of us, I mean, we're adults, we're all working our butts off. That's like exactly, you nailed it. It's a community event where we all get together and like get to do this wicked thing together. So yeah.
One of our bar staff, like who I've worked with for a long time, a couple of years ago, coined it like Portaloozy Christmas. Just like it's their favorite time of year for that. Like, I don't know, she lives in that neighborhood, and
everyone just looks so forward to it.
Portaloozy Christmas is like a nice like,
that's awesome.
I love that.
That's that's definitely like a jump off from like Merritt and Christmas which is like Labor Day weekend in that part of St. Catharines.
Right.
But it becomes like, we all look forward to it. And hopefully that's how the kind of neighborhood around it does too.
It's so well received.
We talked to a lot of people at the festival that said like, they've just come every year, and like it's good to get a festival to a point where the bands don't matter as much, where normally like you're reading down the line, I like this one, not really, should we go, should we not? But then when it's just like, this festival is great, let's go, like it kind of has that vibe where it's getting it anyways.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, like that's sort of how you hope a venue can be. Like you're hoping, and it's a bit more optimistically, that like the venue can have its own like reputation that is as or close to as important as like what bands are playing. Like,
Yeah.
if you think live music, do you think of Warehouse in St. Catharines? And that's hard because it's like every night's a different thing, right? The experience is different because the experience is driven 90% of the experience is driven by the music you're seeing, and the other 10% is the consistent elements of the venue that you're used to when you go.
Yeah. And you had like a really eclectic use of the space. Like it wasn't a specific genre. Every time I went, it was a different like style altogether of bands.
Yeah, you're talking about with Warehouse? Yeah, because it's like our job as a venue is to just like, again, mirror what people want.
Right.
Like,
and you want to tap into all the different markets. Everybody listens to different stuff, so you don't want to get the same people.
There wasn't enough like live music business in the city
exactly
to be one genre based venue, like to be a punk venue or to be a rock venue or to be a, an acoustic folk venue. Like there wasn't enough to go to zero in on one of those things. So though the space was designed to be like, if tonight's a metal show and tomorrow's like a singer songwriter show, like the space doesn't feel, you don't feel out of place in either.
No. It was neutral.
Yeah, for sure. Like a gray box. Like it was quite literally the most neutral possible. So Cicada, that was definitely a goal in the background, like for people to look at it as, we in 2025 we put tickets on sale for the first time before we had a lineup announced. Like it was like
that.
And other festivals do this, and so it was a bit of we
went to Harvest, same thing. We didn't know who the DJs were going to be.
It's just a bit of a test of like, do people like this thing enough that it supersedes the bands?
Love that.
Yeah. Now, or do you just look at it as like they trust you to give them another lineup that they're gonna like? If you've liked this thing the last 3 years, the probability that you'll like it the next time is high. So like, do you want to gamble and get a better deal on your tickets? Like, so we did that for the first time.
Yeah, and you're training your audience too to be like, you better get it now and know that the bands are going to be good, And then you know how much money like you're dealing with too. I love that from a business perspective.
It helps a little bit. I mean, you're talking about a pretty like small percentage of the overall.
But that keeps getting bigger as you get more trust from your audience, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. What if you sold out before you even released the lineup?
Well, then I'd be Coachella. Because that's the only example of that exists. And like the truth is, like, festivals don't sell out. There's such a high ceiling, right, for attendance in a lot of places that the urgency to buy is like non-existent. Right. So it's like, when did you buy your tickets? A week before? Yeah, a week before. So I didn't know that. I didn't look that up. That's just, you said it. I was just guessing. No, we were trying to figure out because we were going to Nuit Blanche. So we're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Are we going on the weekend? We just got back from Peru. Like, we're a hot mess. Right. So next year I'll buy them in advance. Fine, but it's like I said. There's just no like. It's hard. You can't rely on. You can't rely on the urgency being because it's going to sell out. Right. So you have to try to incentivize people to buy the tickets earlier. For different reasons, right? It's like, is the price better? Are you offering like a contest opportunity that's like the first 100 people to buy tickets enter to win a contest to win a shirt? Yeah. Like you're just like doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Maybe urgency for like add-ons. Like if you have you had VIP this year, right? Yeah. Yeah, I heard great things about it. Oh, that's good. Like those things are cool, right? Yeah, you can offer those things, but I know what you're saying. At the end of the day, like what festivals, I think festivals in general have experienced that I know is like everyone waits till the last minute. Yeah, that's been more true the last couple of years than ever before. I know people are so non-committal. And I actually wanted to ask you about that. It's weather. They go like, well, it's outside, so I want to see if the weather's going to be good. Yeah. What if my kid gets a cold? That's true. Yeah. And they've been burned by not being able to use tickets they bought and not be able to get their money back in for other, Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that's the sort of biggest effect of one of the biggest effects of COVID on concerts and festivals is the idea that like a lot of people bought tickets for things they never got their money back, and those shows never happened. Scarred into their brains. And so it's like I want to make sure this is really happening. That I can go. I really want to make sure it doesn't get rained out, or I really want to make sure it's going to be comfortable for me. So I'm going to wait until the very last second because it's not going to sell out anyway. Right. So why would I buy them until the day before? Right. We sold more tickets the day before Cicada than we sold on
All
any
the way up until it?
on any single day. Well, no, not quite that far.
Okay.
But we on any single day from the day we announced until the day before the festival,
Gotcha.
we sold almost double the best sales day we had all year on the day before the festival.
That's frightening, but also exciting.
Well, it's great once you get there.
Yeah.
But until then, it's
You're
like,
just like,
what do I have to do to get these people to commit to something they're probably going to go to? You know,
right.
I knew friends that were like, can I still get tickets at the door? And I'm like, you're killing me. You're killing me here. Like we're throwing $500,000 at this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all on us.
Can I get tickets at the door?
They're like, well, we decided to wait until we made sure it was like a perfect 25-degree and sunny day.
Yeah.
You know, if there had been
brutal.
a light breeze from the west, they would have not gone. Like, you know, it's awful.
So I actually want to talk about the venue on Henley Island because it's beautiful. It's surrounded by water. So like the couple times that we went and we brought the kids, like that was great too, because it almost is like this beautiful picnic area on the outskirts. That's where like they hold the regattas, so it's really cool. I mean, it wasn't happening at the time, but the venue is just so beautiful. So yeah, how did you go about kind of looking for that venue and choosing that space?
So
and getting that space, and then letting you use it.
To be honest, like the long story is too long. So, you know, the original Cicada Fest that was run by Tom Lepp in like the early to mid 2000s. Was like a backyard neighborhood thing that they hosted in Port Dalhousie, and Tom, three of Tom's sons are like the current part of the current festival organizing group.
Okay. Ari was talking about that on his set because he played it in the backyard, and now you've added that kind of like Tom's backyard stage on the side. I love that. So
that whole area of the festival is like sort of a throwback reference to the sort of like original Cicada Fest that were like an end of summer like backyard party that they hosted as a family.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like a family reunion, the whole festival.
Well,
it's amazing.
It is. There's a lot of family. There's a lot of people's family there.
Yeah.
So when they had done that event, like it had grown to a point at where it was too big for their yard, and they'd moved, you know, Tom did it in a few other places. One of the places they did it was at the Rowing Alumni Association clubhouse, like yard. So like a very small sliver of the site we're on, which we actually use now as like an artist area, was the location for Cicada Fest, but it was still on the island.
Okay.
And it moved around, and it moved to different places like over the course of like a few different, you know, years. Became a bit more of an actual festival, retracted when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and like had a couple like last iterations in like the mid 2010s. And so when he passed away in 2017, his sons that are involved now like were keen to do something as like a fundraiser for Movember, which they had done a couple of like Movember fundraiser years, like while he was still alive, raised a ton of money, did a great job. But the year that he passed away, they were like, it feels weird to continue doing this, like fundraiser, ask our friends and family for money. We want to do something that's like more serviceable to the public. And so they had the idea of doing Cicada Fest in a more like slightly larger scale way, and to do it on the island in that park. And so I don't know, like friends of friends, I got connected with them, and they walked me through the site, and I was like, I don't know how no one's ever done this before. This space is perfectly carved out for, you know, as you've seen now, like layout wise, all the sort of things you want, a lot of things that make it easier, like it's an island, so you don't have to put up a fence around a whole thing.
Totally.
And I had been there once in the university days for like a rowing event.
Rowing regatta, yeah.
And that's the only thing that really had happened there before that. And that park space that we're in with the main part of the festival had been previously like used almost never, like by no events had ever happened in that space. The rowing is obviously in the pond and on the course, and
right beside the like waterfront.
And then the other sort of side of the island is like the rowing center and the rowing, the boat houses and all that stuff. But that upper part that the festival is in had never been used really for any sort of public events. So my answer to your question is like, I don't know, kind of feels lucky that this space exists, and that there's people that have to this day like come to the festival that live in St. Catharines and they've never been there before. And they're like, I had no idea this was here. Right. Because it's like you drive down a residential street
Yeah,
and then you come in over like
it's hard to get to.
You don't even really know it's there until
Yeah.
you're on it. And this is the response you get from artists as well, is they're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like they come in and they see the site and they're like, this feels like we're in the middle of the city, but as soon as we came through this street and over the bridge, it feels like we're in a totally different place.
Yeah.
So it's like incredibly a unique space, and like there's so much potential.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it's very interesting, like backstory to the island itself, which is like I won't get into, but you know, it centers around the history of like rowing in St. Catharines, which is like deep and like 100 years of, you know, sporting culture in the city. And the building that we utilize as our kind of pseudo like office / like artist hospitality area is like the Rowing Alumni Association's like clubhouse, and they use it very infrequently. It's like rented as a banquet hall. In some cases they've done weddings and like other sort of standard like rental space type events.
Yeah.
And as a result of like their own, like their land deal, like they have the building, and then they have this park that when they rent the building, you can use the park.
Wow.
So it's super, super unique and hard to explain. And I've only really recently kind of wrapped my head around the whole thing after 7 years of doing the festival.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're like super fortunate to have it. I mean, to be honest, like not to disparage any other events that happen in other cities, but like a lot of festivals, whether they're about the same size or bigger than Cicada, like are in like a field, like they're just a flat space because you just need real estate.
Yeah.
And
you need
so
a lot of space.
there being like space, but also that it's cozy at the same
trees
time.
and
I was just gonna
gosh.
say that the trees, like we did Osheaga, and same thing. It's on Jean Jalfar Island. So I get the island, which is like it's so many less obstacles to run up against and like herding humans into one space and not. But the trees, like unbelievable. We went to Osh and it used to be all this like big tree area. Now they've like fenced it off. So they put all the fences in the trees. So what I was going to say is the landscape is gorgeous, amazing. But yeah, because people are not overrunning it, overusing it, like that would happen, right? As like more events got there, people would be like, we want more space, let's cut this tree down, let's cut this tree down, let's cut this tree down. And the next second, you know, it ends up being a field because of trampling people kill the grass. That space is like lush, beautiful grass.
It doesn't look like that right now. Right now it's a little dry.
Ooh,
actually
yeah?
no, it did, at least it got some rain. It was like super dry.
Well,
It
I
was
mean,
dry for a while.
I mean, yeah, like there, you know, it was used for the weekend, but if you give it a year, it's gonna lush back up again for next year.
And because it's like this pseudo, like it's like city space, but it's not city space.
Yeah.
Like they have the opportunity to like, they closed it off last spring, like completely from even like walking traffic.
Amazing.
And like reseeded the grass, and like, you know, the whole island is like not the greatest like fertile environment. Like it's sand.
Really?
You know, like the parts that you park on they're like, go Google it, like Google Henley Island, the history of Henley Island, because it's interesting. But they do take care of it because it doesn't get used very often. So it's amazing. It was a dry year. Yeah. Which didn't do like park spaces in the city any favors. I mean, even like the concert events that I was involved with at like Montebello Park over the summer, like it's
Montebello
like
was so dusty,
dry, just completely dry space because there was so little rain.
Right.
But yeah, it's
no, I thought it was amazing. I mean, a lot of the times you're at a festival, like you don't want to sit down because you're in dirt. And then as a promoter or a venue, you have to provide all the seating. But like this, anywhere you sat, it was, you know, it was green. It was like being on a picnic. It was amazing.
It feels like I feel like this year I really kind of felt the attendee experience more. Like
because you weren't doing anything.
Well, because you're running around less. Like you're running like
that's amazing.
Got a little bit easier.
You did everything you needed to do.
It felt like I could like walk out into the space and just sort of stand in one place and like well, not even necessarily like I watched some music for sure. Yeah. But you kind of like get a chance to just like observe everyone else. And I think your point about fencing, for example, it's like a funny one, but when there isn't like a obvious like perimeter fence like around you, you don't feel as much like you're in a pen, you know, like an alcohol controlled
beautiful and freedom,
like it's you're just like you're in the woods a little bit. And that's true for a few other festivals like Riverfest and Hillside, like have these sort of feelings of like
Hillside was amazing too. It was in Guelph, right?
Yeah I think we're
been to that a few
super
times.
super lucky that those like surroundings kind of exist to make it feel like that.
Totally.
People ask, actually, I think we answered the question over like an Instagram message, and I didn't realize at first why they were asking, but someone asked like, how do we get to the island? And in my head, I'm like, you just drive your car over the bridge. Like I didn't like question it. Like I didn't think about why, like they'd never been there before. It's like, is there a ferry? Like how do we get to this island? You know,
Right.
Like it's a unique thing, but it's, man, like big advantage to the city here to have something like that. And I hope, you know, it'd be cool to do more. It'd be cool to do a little bit more stuff there. Just because again, like as you see it, as it's the layout is just so, the layout is so conducive to doing, you know, an event there. It doesn't have to be exactly the same layout, but just
I love that like back and forth. We've been to a couple in Toronto of that, like I'm sure it's pretty standard to have like 2 stages so that you don't have the interruption. This is so dumb, but maybe you guys will understand why I'm saying it. But sometimes you're at a show and like you get like fidgety. I mean, yeah, you're dancing, you're watching, but like I loved that it was like, 45 minutes, time to go to you know, go for a little walk and then go for a little walk, and the whole crowd like shifts and changes and moves. Like I just loved it. The flow is just so awesome.
I'm like kind of dialed in on the idea that, you know, giving people stuff that, like giving people so much to do that they're not completely overwhelmed, but like you want people to feel like, I missed that part. Yeah. You know, like I missed tons of parts. Like I'm like, I didn't get to see any of the bands on that backyard stage because I'm on the complete other side and I'm like doing whatever. Yeah. But even when people that went to the festival and they're like, yeah, we got here at 3:00 and we left at 11, and like they still missed, I didn't notice that photo booth, or I didn't do this. Yeah. It's like, that's great, because FOMO. That means next time you're like, come back. Well, you're not like, I've been to that festival, I did all the things. Right. Like the bands are, I'm not saying the bands aren't the reason people are there, but when you've given people other elements to engage with, and like when you put it all up, when you set everything up, you look around and you're like, there is more space for more things. Like there's more activities. There could be more things, you know, like
I think so.
I think the backyard is like a new thing. We've kind of slowly, cautiously like developed it into like its own area. Yeah, there was all those like, there was little shops in the trailers. Yeah. I loved that. So the trailers were awesome. I'm gonna try and do more. And like, you know, there's a balance of like, how much stuff do you do for kids? I was just gonna mention the kid thing. So I think the first time that we went 3 years ago, I think that was like huge for us. We had newborn babies. We're both music junkies. We've like grown up doing it. And I think that there is this transition where you are young and you're going to shows and you have all the things, and then you have kids, and like what's there for you, right? A lot of times it's at a bar, kids can't come, so you all of a sudden get like all these people that would have been there for you, that would still support you, would go to these shows, but we have kids now, we can't. Yeah. So having a festival where like 2 things, one, that like kids are even accepted, but B, to have that next level of a kid ticket, like for parents that are now evolving and kind of like, you know, aging out of the scene, I think is magical. Because I mean, people do like the natural thing. You don't see a lot of kids past 7 or 8 o'clock. They still bought the ticket. They're coming early, so they're enjoying the festival and all the things you have to offer at 3. And then, you know, going home at 7 if they have kids, but it's still an option. They can still go and experience it with their families. Or take the kid home and come back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we hear that a lot. Like, you know, it's the like, I feel like we've even noticed it right in the first year. Like there was like a transition point at like 4 in the afternoon or 4 or 5 in the afternoon where people like, you felt like people were leaving. Yeah. And then they came back. Yeah. They just came back when like... Yeah, even the fact that you allow in and out, like all the exceptions and all the accessibility that you're offering families, I think is just magical. And the fact that it's a folk festival, right? So that was like, I don't know if that was a conscious decision for it to be like a family and be folk. Like it goes together. It was great. Sort of, the consciousness was around like, you know, you want it to be like friendly, like to the community, and like, what kind of things are people going to ask for? Like in and out privileges, take your kid home, like make it all ages. There's really no reason or not, like I don't know why, unless you're musically like anti like unless it's like anti-children friendly, like there's really no reason not to. All the time. But like being able to say to someone like, bring your kid for the afternoon and then take them to, you know, the babysitter or whatever and then come back, is like, that's a huge, I mean, a lot of it is just, we want the parents to not have as many hurdles. Right, exactly. Like, well, I want to sell you 2 tickets, so I want you to feel like there's not as much of a hurdle to going, right? Because I know people that are like, I would bring
Can't
my
go.
kid, but
Don't
I
have
can't.
a babysitter.
I would bring my kid, but anything more than 3 hours, and they're gonna have a meltdown.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, no problem, bring them for 3 hours, and then,
Yeah, and when you're buying a kid price ticket, it doesn't matter really what the price is. As long as you know that like you're paying half price, I'm getting discounted. This person is recognizing that like this child is only going to last 3 hours, and it's not going to be,
Our policy is like kids are free under 10 and under is free.
Yeah.
And then it's like a 50% ticket for teenagers.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And that's, like we're not trying to, what would be the point, right? I'm not selling tickets to an 8-year-old.
No, I know, but for a parent to come in and see just the fact that you've done that as like for a family makes the buy-in so much easier and so much more comfortable for a parent.
Your value as an attendee, like again, that kind of point about like what's the capacity of a space, like the kids that are there aren't taking up enough space for it to be worth charging them.
Yeah.
And they're also, making it accessible to people with kids is in that whole spirit of like the folk festival world, and we're not necessarily like trying to be a folk festival. I think it's just like it's not musically necessarily the lane always, but it is like the spirit of one, which is to say like you want people to be able to lower the barrier to entry, right? A family of 5 being like burdened with like a 5 ticket purchases would suck.
Yeah.
So just trying to lessen it and like do more things, have more things on site that are engaging. Cause like, again, one of my best friends has 3 kids, and one is like nonverbal autistic, and that's challenging enough like in a normal day. So you want to bring that group to a thing like this, like you need stuff for them to do, like you need activities, you need stuff to be engaged with. Like, it's not enough to just be like,
also the
kids are free.
ADHD adults.
Yeah, like it's not enough for it to just be free for kids.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing for them.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be almost counterproductive.
Right.
So at the same time, it's not a playground.
Yeah.
We
kind of is though. Like the space is amazing. The kids can like climb trees and go. You know?
I have to remind people like we have not rounded the edges here. Like don't lose your. I don't know.
Lose.
I was walking through this site. I was walking through this site 72 hours ago and dodging like footballs and soccer balls, and I'm like, this is a little bit much at dark. Like in the dark, I'm like, if someone gets pegged with a football, they're not gonna be happy with us. But there's a balance, right? Like it's a balancing act somewhere. So
it was just so well done. I was just so impressed. So where do you have some vision for the next 5 years? Is there gonna be one next year?
Years. Yeah. The next 5 years is a long future. I mean, we didn't know. I'm not sure if we thought we'd even do it for this many. Yeah, like I don't know. There was never really like, there's no end goal, right? Because these things are at their best, they're sort of like, they maintain like a level, they maintain a certain organic look and feel where it's like, this could be totally different next year, it could be the same, it could happen, it could not happen, but we don't, like, we're not beholden, right? Like we're not like forced to do it. So when it doesn't feel good anymore, it'll either stop or change drastically, I guess. But like that's a long way off, right? Especially this year, coming out of it and feeling like this was the best year ever.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think that's kind of like what it a little bit has to be.
Yeah.
I feel like if there is any unspoken expectation, it's like, we better come out of this thing saying this was the best one yet.
Right.
But we could do better.
Yeah.
Even though if we don't know what better is, like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't know it until you're doing it.
Some plans for next year?
Well, I think, there's lots of, I mean, I'm not committing to anything because I don't know yet, but we could grow it. It could go to 3 days. Like you could add other elements. You could add more space. Like there's so much space on the island that we don't use.
Yeah.
Even space like kind of within the site that we underutilize, or we could use it differently. Mm-hmm. One really interesting thing that happened this year at the festival was like Billie Ann, who was performing on the main stage, like finished her set and then like raced over with an acoustic guitar to just like an area, and just because time's limited on the stage, she was like, I want to play a couple more songs. So she like basically said like, anyone who wants to hear me play a couple more songs, like follow me over this area. Wow. And then she like played a couple songs, like no mics, no anything, right? Just acoustic guitar.
Okay.
And there's a few videos, right? People took videos and posted them. Like But it gave me this idea that was like, what if bands that were playing like on the main stages, like what if there was like you talked to these artists ahead of time and said, if you're interested in playing like a couple acoustic tunes on this other stage, like we create an area for it.
Right.
And so like the day before the festival.
Or like signing or something, you know, like they could do like merch signing. No.
Sure.
Okay.
If you want. But maybe.
Yeah.
I think we did that actually.
That does happen though. I've been to lots of shows where they have that.
Yeah.
You know, where like they like, oh, come like buy some merch after or whatever.
Yeah, I think it could be. I like the idea of like the day before the festival, there's like a post that's like, hey, surprise, these artists are playing on this, like, I don't know, like
I
a couple
noticed you did
acoustic
some
songs.
like after party stuff that was like tied into
surprises are
it.
fun, actually.
We did
surprises are great.
that was another thing we did for the first time, which was like, what if we did like a late night show down the road at the Lions Club in Port Dalhousie. That was a new thing that we were like, I don't know if this will work. Will anyone care? Will
I
anyone
saw
go to
Katie.
this?
She was like, we're having a show after. I got to move this truck.
Yeah,
I was
and
like, what?
she was like bombarded at like 11 o'clock with people trying to get in. So like there was, those are the sort of things that are like, they're maybe not like, they're not sort of like big shifts in the concept of the festival, but you can like make it, like build it out a little bit more, right? Like the festivals that have been around for 30, 40 years, like Mariposa, like do so much like stuff outside of like the figurative like walls of the festival site. Like they do workshops, they do like stuff songwriter stuff at like local businesses in the neighborhood. Like there's kind of stuff going on in and around the festival, not just like here's what's on stage. And I think Port Dalhousie is like a neighborhood where like we could do more things as we grow.
Ultimately, I think partnerships just happen, right? Accidentally, where people are like, "Oh, we want to get involved. How can we?"
Like we've dreamed for like years about doing like kayak and canoe like demos on the pond, like off the island. Like it's like, hey, are you bored for the next hour? Like,
go rent a kayak.
There's a kayak, like the kayak guy is going to be at the dock.
That would be awesome. And paddle boats, kayaks.
I don't know. There's like kinds of. There's all these. We have all these relationships, and there's businesses, and maybe there's something with that. Yeah. But we're just sort of seeing how it goes. I mean, the next goal is to just get to a point of like, we want to see more people come out. Obviously, we want to book bigger bands. Like, those are the obvious sort of like, what are the goals for the next few years? Yeah. But for me, one of the big like through lines across the 5-6 years we've done this is like sustainable growth. Like, we don't want to shoot for like the biggest lineup in the world, then fall on our face and never be able to do it again.
Oh, like Way Home?
For sure.
I don't, not like any specific festival. I don't.
Way Home was like so good for 2 years in a row, and then their third year lineup was brutal.
I don't know if it was
You're
just
like,
the
how
lineup.
did you do that?
See, that is the death nail of like when someone says that, exactly what you just said. Like, that's the biggest fear of like my job, which is like to put this lineup together on a poster. Yeah. Book the lineup and then put it on a poster, and then put that poster on the internet and wait for someone to say last year was better. Yeah. That's the worst possible feeling ever.
Yeah.
So scary.
Yeah. It's hard. It's other people's bands. Like,
but that's why I say sustainable growth, right? Because if you go too big too fast and then you can't follow it up, like again, you're at the mercy of like general opinion on the internet. So and like, Way Home I thought was like, I don't know, maybe this is just like my hindsight, like what Way Home felt like a cool festival. Like, I like awesome. The site, I like the stuff they had.
It was we went to Bonnaroo and we were like, I think it was the same guy who did Bonnaroo did Way Home.
There was definitely there was some like overlap in the
you could just tell like the branding and everything looked very similar. The look of it was
but it kind of, I guess, they did a really big lineup for a couple of years, and then one thing that I know is that, or like that I assume because I work in the space, is that the third year of Way Home lineup costs as much as the first year and the second year, but there wasn't as much on there for the people that had gone the first couple of years, and they were like, meh. Yeah. And like enough people did that it like went south and it didn't work out. Right. Yeah. So, we're not trying to like do we're not trying to do a 50,000 person festival here. So it's a lot easier to like book that lineup and know that the expectations of the people that have gone this year, like your expectations going into 2026 of Cicada is going to be like we had a really nice time and the bands were good, but
Yeah.
the space, right, and the environment that you were in, like we're responsible for like half of it, which is
Right.
like what we put in it, what
Yeah.
we put in that site, and then the site itself, right? Like the environment and the weather, like all that stuff. Like, so your 50% of your experience being positive is like is because of stuff we didn't do, right? Like I didn't build the island. I didn't like
plant those trees.
I didn't control the 25 degrees a day temperature, even though I wish I could say that I did.
The weather was amazing.
You're going to see a lineup next year, and whether it's bigger, smaller, or the same, you're probably not going to go like, because you're going to have that, like, hopefully you have that like positive connotation to like, well, we saw so many people we knew and the bands were really good, right?
Yeah.
Like
the venue's awesome.
The goal of selling 100 tickets before we announce a lineup is to prove that there's people that were like, I had such a good time, like I believe this will be good no matter who's playing.
You're kind of doing a trust test, right?
And we sold about that. We sold about that this year, like in March, where it was like,
okay,
do you trust us? Here's a ticket for $100 for the weekend.
Yeah,
right. It's a gamble for you to see if you'll trust us.
Got that.
And that's a good deal.
Such a good deal.
And nobody wanted a refund after we announced the lineup, so that's
perfect.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I guess all those like metrics and analytics that like you just don't. When we were talking about interviewing you, I was like, I've never sat down with someone like this. I was so excited to pick your brain because it's a dream. Everybody goes to these events and like they have an appreciation. So yeah, my next question was like, what are the challenges behind the scene that like people don't understand? Because I think about them all the time because I'm doing like baby level shows, you know. But I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, I guess what seems like to be on what's on my mind right now is that like every single thing you could possibly engage with, conscious or not, is like brought there, right? If it's not planted in the ground or growing from the ground, like we brought it there.
Every speaker,
which means we have to bring it up.
Every metal,
speakers are nothing. I'm talking like every like wooden stake that goes into the ground to hold a sign, every like fence foot, every like, and then we're taking everything away that we didn't, right? Like every cigarette butt, every every piece of garbage, everything that lands there over the course of a week, like we have to take away. That's something I don't know that a lot of people think about, or if they do, it's like there's probably just some cleanup crew.
That was probably pretty
and
smart.
in most festivals, they're probably like bigger ones. There is a cleanup crew.
Yeah.
This festival, the cleanup crew is like us,
your team,
like dragging ourselves out of bed on Sunday morning to like, and Monday morning and Tuesday morning to like get back down there and go like, remember when we had 70 volunteers? Oh, that was so nice. And now we're like schlepping the beer out of the fridge back into the truck.
Can you get those volunteers to stay till like Sunday?
This is my official call for, we need pre and post event volunteers.
Yes, absolutely.
And we will sign them up next year. We will not make that. We will make sure we do that next year. But yeah, I think, I don't know. It's weird to try to look at like, what do people?
There's so many moving pieces.
What are people not know? I don't know. What do people not know? That it takes anywhere from, 6 to 12 months to book the lineup, not because people aren't interested, but because it's like some artists you can book that early and some you can't, and it's a slow, weird, and very interesting, like fun process to do.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. Just like, oh, can you come on? No, I have to come up Friday at 7:00 because we can't get the bus or whatever to there. Like, yeah, I never even thought of that.
A lot
just
of
like finding the time that they can come, and bands that are free that weekend.
Yeah.
Well,
you could book a band today to play next October, and then they'll build like a tour around it,
right?
To make it worth the one show they have if they're coming from like
so much pre-planning.
Like Ultimata is a band from they're based in Alberta, and they were the first band I booked for this year's festival.
Yep.
They ended up planning a tour around that date,
because
that date was locked in, 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, like we have this date. What can we do to make worth coming from Alberta to Ontario?
Right.
And so they did that. So there's tons of like background, like planning on the artist side to like, it's not just this one show. Like they have to make string a few things together to make it
worth
in some cases make it worth doing, like committing to. Like not everybody's from Ontario, so there's
I was just gonna ask you that. Was it all Canadian though?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I thought that because I'm like, I don't think I heard of anyone like being from the States, but
we had one American act last year, none this year. I think there was like a goal like to get to the point where there's some American artists on the festival, just like, or international, maybe like non-Canadian.
Yeah.
And like see what makes sense. Like a lot of it's the part of the challenge is like the exchange, right? Like a band that for every $100 you spend, it's actually $140 Canadian. That 30-40% difference like changes a lot of like who are you bringing,
right?
So there's definitely a goal to do, you know, more eventually, like more international stuff, whether that's American or otherwise. But again, it's like the travel's the challenge, right? Most Canadian artists are either a lot of Canadian artists are in Ontario already, obviously.
Yeah.
And then ones that aren't, like, will work around to build something around. They might only need 2 or 3 other shows to make it worth coming for a single festival date.
Right.
But if you want to bring someone in from like Chicago, like, or farther, like they're gonna fly and you're gonna pay some travel expenses, and it's expensive to do. So we kind of try to get to that level where booking American or other international artists is like makes sense.
Yeah.
I think sprinkling them in is like the goal, right? Like we want to still be like a Canadian music festival.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was like an intentional, like, no, we don't want anyone from any other country. No,
I think it's just like the baby steps.
Logistics.
It's just the baby steps you take to get to a point where like you've built up an audience that goes like, this festival's cool, like, and then when can you bring the prices up to that level where you can afford a bigger festival or bigger artists?
And you, like, I'm sure the artists also kind of want the festival to like hold the, you know, match their level of energy, right? Like if they're, you know, they don't want something that's too small for them, right? You got to find like that exact what they're used to in terms of audiences.
There's reputation, like they'll look at what have you done for the last 4 years, and
100%. Like, look at your website. Is it worth our time to go there? I mean,
that's maybe one of the bigger like misnomers about booking bands is that like if you have the money you can just do it. Like if you have the money you can book the band, but it's like,
they're gonna come if you're gonna pay them for no one, they're gonna come.
But there's a lot of instances where like they'll go, okay, great, you have the money, but what's this thing about? Okay, right? Who are we playing with? What's the stage? What's the environment? Right, like all those other variables matter. Okay, optics matter. If it's a bad look for that band, they're not just going to say yes because you wrote a check.
Right.
You know, it's just like bands saying no to like birthday parties. Like there are bands that are like, yeah, you might be a rich person that wants me to play their birthday party, but it's a bad look for me to do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I remember that story. We watched this thing. It was like the Decemberists, and they did this live thing afterwards during COVID. And they were saying that they were going to open up, or they got offered to headline, and Arcade Fire was going to open for them, and they're just like those guys are intense, like they're just going to blow us out of the water. So they're like, sorry, we declined, right?
I'm
sure that was they would have had this big spot and it was a big tour, but they're just like, that's they're going to kill us, they're going to make us look bad, basically.
It's like the Weezer Limp Bizkit show. That show I think had the same thing that happened. Weezer just like killed.
That's a weird combo, but
it wasn't Limp Bizkit, it was Blink 182.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Blink 182, not Limp Bizkit.
But it went down as like being like, Weezer just killed, and then Blink 182 people were like leaving the show.
Right.
So you do get those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean we're trying. I mean, like my job is like to try to build like a cohesive lineup that feels good and like that speaks to enough people, right? Like you're not just going after one audience or one fan base. Like you're trying to build something that like the whole, you know, like again, back to this thing where it's like the community kind of looks at it and goes like, it's Cicada weekend. I don't have to know who's playing. I don't have to know everybody who's playing.
Yeah.
And I think like the success of this year was the kind of the balance. I think the right balance of like Sam Roberts, for example, is like, people know who Sam Roberts is, and it's like, even if they're not like huge fans, it's like, I'm gonna know some songs, I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And then those other
great.
like some of the other artists on the festival, like there's a bit of a discovery element that people I spoke to even like in the last couple of days, they're like, yeah, we don't need to know every band, like we just know it's gonna be good. But we know that we're probably going to enjoy it, and if we don't, there's like lots of stuff to do to pay attention to that isn't who happens to be playing at that moment.
All the food was great. We didn't talk about that yet. That was amazing.
That's all off our hands. I mean, we choose the vendors, but obviously like that's one of those other pieces that's fun. It's like just get to say like, okay, these are the 7 food vendors we're going to have, and like we chose based on what we think people will be a little bit different from the year before. Give people variety. Like,
you get to do like cake testing, you know, you're like,
come
let me test all your food.
This year I had one food item from a food vendor.
What? The whole weekend?
Yeah. I mean, I ate one meal basically for 2 days. Like, I think we ate like,
starving.
well, you don't even really notice it. I had people. There's multiple times where people are like, "Do you want something to eat?" Like, I'm going to get. I'm like, I'm really not hungry. Like, there's too much.
You're just on adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's just too. Like, you're
when
not
your body's
really,
like that, you're not hungry.
You don't really relax.
No.
There's like a weird thing about being constantly like, I could get a call at any moment that someone like fell into the lake. Like, I could get a call at any moment that this thing is the power went out.
Stage isn't working.
Like, so you're never really like, you're on a little bit of an edge, even though in retrospect it's like things went really smooth. But like, you're on edge the whole time, and you don't really feel like eating. So, but I ate some bao. I ate a couple of bao.
That's what we had.
The bao buns were amazing.
The bao buns were so good.
There was a moment where like I had a 14-year-old volunteer, and his mom was like, "You need to go eat," like, and he was like, "Okay," and then I thought this is my reminder. I was like, you know what? I got 15
this is my
minutes.
mom in my head.
I have 15 minutes. I'm going to go get some food. And even if halfway through eating it, someone calls me, that'll be fine. At least I'll have tried something.
Yeah.
And those guys were new to us this year. Like, this is our first event in Niagara. They filled in for someone who had to cancel.
Oh.
Like a few weeks out. Like, I think the vendor that didn't come was like, we had a couple weeks notice. And so we reached out to those guys, and they're like, we would love to come. I think we were like, they were our like, if someone can't, like we ran out of space. If someone cancels, we'll call you. Yeah. Which had never happened before. And so when it did, I was like, call those guys now. Let's see if they can come. Cause I really wanted to try. Yeah. The food looked really good.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So there's always like, again, like I know it's sort of repeating myself a little bit, but there's always like, you want to give people new stuff each year.
Yeah.
You don't want it to feel like, well, it's the same vendors and the same this and the same that.
Yeah, I already had that.
You know, I've seen that band before. Like, you're trying to create these like unique, or at least a unique experience overall. We had, Broken Social Scene played on Friday in London, Ontario at the music hall there. Mm-hmm. And there were, Peter Dreams played like another show on this Friday night somewhere else. Both of those artists were at the festival on Saturday, and then Broken Social Scene brought Hannah Georges, who's another amazing like Canadian musician who lives in Belleville, invited her to play with them on Friday because they're a weird collective. They always have different, they invite different people to play with them. Yeah. And she's an incredible singer. So I knew she was coming to play with them, and then like in the midst of the day, while all the artists are on site hanging out, like a decision was made to like have Peter Dreams, Peter from July Talk, like come up with Broken Social Scene and do a song. So like there's like a moment where like it's Broken Social Scene with like Peter, and Hannah's also singing, and I'm like, this is gonna happen once ever and no others. Like, because it's just the uniqueness of like, well, both of these bands are on the festival, they asked her to play this one, like this won't happen necessarily, very unlikely this is going to happen again. In the exact
magical moments,
like that's the stuff that's like fun to like sit back on the Monday afternoon and go like, that was really cool, because that won't happen again. Like that won't happen anywhere else. So fun. It's like the Death from Above, like 2 shows in one night at Warehouse, like that'll never happen again. The circumstances just are whatever, like we're whatever to like have it happen. And I was saying to the couple people, whoever was sitting there, we were all dazed on the couple days after, but it was like that thing like only can happen at a festival like this, right? It can't happen because things that are unique about us as a festival is like we don't have like artist trailers. We have like one big room, and it's like you bring everyone in and go like, this is all just communal, right? Like there's a bar and there's food and there's
so fun.
And so bands are just hanging out, and like lots of people know each other.
Networking and interacting.
It's the
and like
music
meeting
industry
people.
in the country is small, so these folks know each other.
So awesome.
So that like kind of, hey, do you want to come up and do this song with us? Like moment is like a result of like, we've jammed everyone in one room and say like, I hope you like each other because this is where the bar is and where the food is. And,
interact, yeah.
And then, you know, that kind of thing can kind of happen.
Yeah.
And it happened, you know, it's happened in other cases over the last few years. Like, I think like Dan Romano and their band and the guys from the Dirty Nil like went up and did a Constantine song like together like 2 years ago. Like just random, like, you know, it's like the combination of people who are on site and just being like, we could all get up together and do this thing.
That's so fun.
So those are the really like unique things we get to be a part of.
Yeah. Just those like collaborations, right?
And so that is a very
yeah.
super weird wrap back around to like what your kind of question was about what people don't think about is like, there's these really random opportunities that like people will see like, I mean, people who go to shows like are savvy enough to know that like, well, maybe the opener will come out on stage during the headliner and they'll do a song together. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, we don't plan this stuff either. And we don't know it's happening, right? Like I found out Peter was going on stage with Broken Social Scene when Peter went up on stage. Like, you know, and then afterwards I was like, did anyone know this was going to happen? And someone was like, well, I did see them talking. And then I saw Peter go to the woods with a guitar. And like, then he posted an Instagram story of himself playing that song. And then it was like, oh, now he's on stage. Like that stuff, all that stuff happens in the spur of the moment. And like, even we don't know. It's like, just like a weird, like festivalism.
Yeah.
That,
It's like you're like musical Cupid.
Without planning to be, you know?
I know, but that's great. I think when you said, you know, earlier in the episode, you said you're a facilitator. I think that's really what it is, right? You're facilitating these experiences, whether it's between the audience and the performer or between each other, right? You're like setting up these opportunities.
It's like the concert concierge.
Yeah, that would be a better business name.
I love it. We're getting rid of promoter. That's it. It's gone forever. We got better ones.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, this has been so great. I can't thank you enough. We were so excited to sit down with you. I also can't thank you enough on behalf of Niagara for all the things that you're doing for the music scene. And keep up the great work. I can't wait to see what you do next.
I can't wait to see if I make it to 50.
Yeah.
How much more
can you do by 50?
Exactly.
I can't wait. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and you'll never miss a podcast.
All right. Good night.